Good morning. It's Sunday, November the 12th. This is Kathy DeMattias, and I am coming you this morning. We are literally, I think, almost. It's getting to the almost 5 week mark before my book, My Journey to the Center of Love, comes out, and it's just a very exciting time. And I wanted to talk to you about something that I had written from chapter 4 on page 32 when I talk about a friend of mine who had died unexpectedly, and then what had happened preceding that. On March 3rd, 1999, I was leaving a chiropractor's office in Hockessin when I looked up at the sky and knew something was different. When I pulled into the neighborhood, the cars lined the streets in front of my house. I thought nothing of this. My house always has cars because of the pool, and I just assumed a birthday party or something was happening. A few minutes later, I received a call from a neighbor's across the street. She told me that the daughter of my neighbor's door, 2 doors down, had committed suicide by jumping off the Delaware Memorial Bridge. I remember falling to my knees as I hit the floor in disbelief. Her 5-year-old was asleep on my couch that afternoon when she did this. After what seemed like a million screams, I composed myself and looked to see what I could cook for the people that were gathering down the street. That's one of the things that I put in there. This woman, her name was Amy, and she had two daughters. And I wrote about the dream that I had with her. It was sometime after her funeral. And I had a hard time believing that Amy was dead. And this was 1999. So this was 18 years ago. So I was not at that point. I had just gotten out of massage school. There was things that I knew what was happening, but I did not for real have the support system around me to be able to follow through with learning this side of myself. And I'm saying a support system because there are so many people who are so misunderstood. There are so many people who see, feel, and interpret the other side. And when they try to convey to other people what they are experiencing, it sounds so outlandish that the people don't believe them. And it winds up being it winds up being very, very difficult because for the person that it's happening to, it's extremely confusing. It's it's a very difficult thing to deal with. And I'm saying this because my son, I have a child. All my children know that my house is haunted, but we have a pretty cool ghost that's here, and I'm really just I just more talk to him like, "Hey, how you doing?" and just keep going on my way. Where he has a tendency more to scare my kids. And I have my grandmother's home that I still have my grandmother's house. And I knew as a child that house was really, really haunted. Matter of fact, I remember spending the night with my cousin. And I was in the bedroom and he was out on the couch. And I remember him waking up screaming because something grabbed his feet and said something to him. And him and I wound up getting so worked up that our parents had to come and get us. We couldn't stay there. Well, I have that house now. I have that house. And I know it's haunted And I know, like, when I was taking care of my grandmother, I had, I remember walking down the steps one night to go do a load of laundry, and I could feel this entity basically on my back. And he was intimidating, a lot more intimidating than the one that's here at my house. And I just told him, I was like, you need to back off. I'm doing laundry right now. Leave me alone. I'm not here for your entertainment. And, you know, understanding that you can communicate with them and tell them to back off. It's kind of no different than somebody who was alive. If somebody alive was giving you a hard time and you did not want to deal with that person, you would tell that person, you need to back off. It's the same thing in the spirit world. You can tell them to back off of you. And, you know, just like anything else, just like how some bullies don't back off of you. Some bullies come and they beat the crap out of you. Well, some ghosts do the same thing. So we don't particularly have, we've had a few things here where the kids have been scared at our house, but never, well, one day, I think I've mentioned in the videos before that the person who originally owned my house had to have been a Mason. And something of his is up in the rafters in my house. And he protects that spot, pretty good. So when my kids were up in the rafters looking for something, he pretty much roared and scared the crap out of my kids. And I remember the two running up the steps screaming. So I know, that is something that happens. It's happened here. I knew he was here. I mean, I could feel him when I was down here. But my kids will all tell you they don't even like to go up the steps, because they go up the steps and they can feel him on him, and it just creeps them out. But it depends upon how you want to handle it. My other son, he's not affected by it at all. Like, he could walk right past them and just, it doesn't bother them. And that's how I am. So I have two kids who get very, very unnerved. And then I have me and my other son, and truthfully, and my husband, who just really doesn't even, like, he doesn't even pay any attention to it, doesn't even know what's happening. It's like, I'm aware that it's happening. I just don't give him all that much, I don't entertain him. I mean, it'd be like having to entertain another person all the time here at home. I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time to entertain somebody all day long. So I don't have time to entertain the ghost that's at this house all day long. It's like, okay. I mean, we had the house blessed. We do all kinds of things to get him to leave. You don't want to leave. You don't want to leave. So, got to learn how to coexist. And that is what we have done. So, going back to this portion that I wrote in the book about when a dream that I had, I had woke up, or I was in a dream one morning, and I was back at my friend's funeral, and I was walking towards her casket when the casket opened and she sat up. And I'm like thinking back on this now, and I would have thought I would have been freaked out, to see something like that in my dream. But I really wasn't anymore. And I think, in all honesty, I've probably seen enough dead people alive in my dream talking that I was not scared anymore. That I was, okay, this is normal. So when I approached her casket, she said to me that I needed to investigate things, that what we were told is not what the reality was. And I was like, investigate, what am I investigating? And I remember going and telling her parents about the dream that I had, and they were like, "Oh no, that's the devil doing that." And I was like, "But why would the devil tell me to investigate? Like, like, wouldn't, if it was the devil, wouldn't he have some more dastardly plan? Like, wouldn't he tell me something like, go kill people, or, like, if it was the devil, I would think he would be giving me messages that were of a pretty bad nature, not a message that was, investigate this. It's not what we've been told. We've been lied to." So, so I did investigate, and I've been investigating ever since that day. And now and then when I had seen Amy again, it was during a Reiki session. And Mark, I believe it was when Mark was teaching Conrad his Reiki 1 attunements. And I was getting the Reiki session. And I remember being in heaven with Amy. And I had said to her that I didn't understand why I was still here on earth and why couldn't I be up there with her. And she told me that I had a lot of unfinished business here, and that there was things that I needed to do in this lifetime, and that it wasn't time for me to go back to heaven. So in the Reiki session, I kind of like reluctantly came back. I was really more wanting to stay up there in that peaceful realm, because when I'm having a Reiki session and I get to travel to heaven, it's a peaceful, it is a slice of peace that I long for in my everyday life. And you know, my kids my kids have said, that, because I chose to get rid of television here at home. And my kids, are always saying, it's so quiet here. It's so quiet, I'm striving for that peacefulness. So I've worked to get rid of the noise and the clutter around my house, and to try to set more of an intention of peace. So if I don't have a television set in my own home, can you imagine? I can't even go out. There's so many restaurants anymore in my area that have television sets everywhere. I can't go into those places. I simply can't do it. And I want to sit down and have my dinner without all this stuff flashing at me. I want to have a peaceful dinner. So, being that I can't find too many restaurants anymore that can appreciate what it's like to just have a conversation with the person around you without being bombarded with a television set. And I'm finding the only restaurant I have is my own. But that's okay. I'm a good cook, so it's no big deal. But I just, was looking for peace in my life, and I was looking for what, how can I make my life as calm as possible? Because once I step outside of of my home, there's, a huge amount of things that can bombard me. So starting my day off, trying to be in a prayerful mode is an important part for me. And the investigation that Amy was talking about, was all of this. Investigating, wondering what all of these things are happening. And as I've investigated things, I've realized that I struggled a lot more with understanding who I was, because there just wasn't enough information out there. And we are in a really exciting time where there is so much stuff changing. And when I think about, I was, this morning looking at, I reached out to one of the people in the cannabis groups that are here in Delaware. And I want to make a blanket statement to any of the groups that are in any state that, if you're looking to raise money for your organizations, if you'll allow me to be at your organization to sell my book, I will give $3 to every book sold for your organization to help with the legalization of cannabis. I feel it's I feel legalization, and in my view of it is I feel cannabis needs to be free to the people. I do not believe it should be regulated by industries that jack the prices up for massive profits. This is a plant that literally is no different. Fruits and vegetables have the ability to heal, and we don't regulate. Nobody is regulating ragu spaghetti sauce, and yet tomatoes are full of lycopene, and lycopene helps fight cancer. So let's be for real, people. Cannabis is just a super plant that can help fight cancer, and we are trying to regulate it for the highest amount of money. And that is wrong on so many levels. And it is wrong that poor people do not have access to a plant because they are regulating it to the point that they are regulating it. This is a plant that literally, if you just throw the seeds in the backyard, they'll grow all on its own. It doesn't need, it's like all of this regulation is just to secure the money out of the plant. And really, it's to keep healing away from people. And that's honestly, in my mind, what prohibition has been about this whole entire time. That it was just a great plan. Like, if you look at the timeline of when prohibition happened, it was along the same timeline when Blue Cross Blue Shield came into existence, and medicine and how we paid for doctors was taken over by the insurance industry. The insurance industry is it's not even 100 years old yet. Look at that whole big picture. I mean, if you're talking about a plant, thanks, honey. If you're talking about a plant that has been in existence healing people for thousands and thousands of years, and natural healing, which has been the way for thousands and thousands of years, and all we have right now is like the last 100 some odd years of a different type of healing, and we can see it isn't working very good. We're seeing that there's a lot of problems with it. What does that tell you? I mean, come on, what does that tell you? It tells you that the last 100-year experiment has got a lot of flaws to it. And that, the ancient crafts, the ancient ways, the ways that stood the test of time, that's the problem here, is that, we don't have enough people alive that understand or realized what happened, 300 some odd years ago when it comes to how the body went through healing. And, what I find it baffling, that people are going to go to church this morning and they're going to talk about Jesus, and they're going to talk about how Jesus healed the people by just putting his hands on somebody, the laying on of hands. So we're going to, we're going to go into a church this morning, and we're going to, soak in what the minister says about, how Jesus was a healer and how Jesus would walk around basically healing people with his hands. And yet we somehow are not computing that to 2017. That doesn't make sense, people. Do you think this stuff only happened 2,000 some odd years ago? No, no. It's happening now. It's just that the last 100 years, you guys have been a little hoodwinked. And realizing that, that there are ways in which the body can heal. Our body is set, our body is an endocannabinoid system, which basically means that, and that basically means our body wants cannabis. And this is really how I feel about this. In the state of Delaware, you cannot legally get cannabis unless you are sick and most of dying, before your doctors will write out a prescription so that you can obtain this medicine legally. Has anybody not thought that if we were allowed to consume this plant, use it as a part of our food, put it in your food, like make butter, use it as you're cooking your eggs or something, that you will be giving your body from an early age, and I'm suggesting from an early age. This whole 21 bullshit is a bunch of bullshit, because you are talking about a plant that has if it has the ability to heal somebody from cancer, then don't you think if we're consuming it, then it would have the ability to keep something like that from ever entering in our body, from ever finding a home? So why would we not allow a 21-year-old person to have this? Well, we'll just wait. Let that 21-year-old get good and sick first so that we can suck all the money out of them. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Our body is set for this, and our body wants this. So it's kind of like, think of how food works. If you have a body and you're not feeding it any food whatsoever, it's going to die. So you have a body that is based upon an endocannabinoid system, and it wants those products. It wants that material, which is cannabis, and it's what's being denied. And look at what our bodies are doing. This isn't rocket science, people. This is freaking common sense. Like, do you people not have common sense? The people of our legislators, you want us sick? Do you want us sick? It seems to me you do, because the spin of money is what fuels it. And that is wrong. It is wrong. Our government has no right to tell us how is the perfect way to heal our bodies. And I'll tell you what, and I'm going to say this right now. We're all going to meet our maker one day. Someday we are all going to meet our maker. And we're going to go through that review of the life. If you believe in the Bible, you better well believe in this. That someday we are all going to die. And we are going to be up at the pearly gates, and we're going to go through that review of our life. Which end on the cannabis side of the fence do you want to be on? Do you want to be somebody who fought to free this plant so that the world could consume it naturally, just as like they did the zucchini that they can pull out of the garden or the peach that they can pull off their tree? Or do you want to be the one that put a noose around that plant and a noose around the people that you supposedly serve? Which side of the fence do you want to be on? I know which side of the fence I want to be on. I certainly do not want to be up standing next to God and be going, ooh, my bad. Ooh, oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that I was doing this. Bullshit. You do realize you're doing this. If you are holding this plant hostage from the people of the world, sorry, dude, you're a part of the problem, and you're going to have to answer for it. You might not have to answer for it in the way that you think you have to answer for it, but you're going to have to answer for it. And considering that most of our legislative body are all based upon, like, you can look them all up. Everyone's got their, what religion, that they believe in. So everybody is all based upon the Bible. There's only a small amount of people in the world who really don't believe in some sort of organized church. And so 10 to 1, there's millions of people, going to go to church this morning. They're going to listen to all the things that Jesus did as a healer, and then they're not going to realize all the other things that they have not been told. Wake up, people, wake up. So we know from the Bible that the recipe for healing had cannabis in it. We know that. We know they took it out of the Bible. We know Constantine redid all this stuff. I'm just asking you guys to just do a little bit of investigation work on your own. Don't believe me. Don't take my word for it. Investigate. Investigate. That's what Amy was telling me to do. She was telling me to investigate, that things weren't what they've been telling us. So I have been investigating. I've been investigating this whole entire time, and I've come up with my own conclusions. And that is what I have written in my book. My conclusions. What I was told to do was to investigate and learn for myself. And that is what I did. And that is what I would empower you to do. Investigate. Learn about what the other side is trying to tell us. Realize that we could live our life a much better way if we could if we could use cannabis, just like how other countries, Germany, they give their children a glass of red wine with dinner, and nobody makes a stink over it. It's normal. Nobody's got their panties in a twist in Germany over, their 10-year-old having a glass of red wine at dinner. Number one, it probably makes their kids sleep a little bit better. Wouldn't that be nice if your children could sleep a little bit better, have half a glass of red wine with dinner, and they sleep better? But in this country, we're chastised for that. And it really makes no sense whatsoever. Just as it makes no sense whatsoever to withhold a plant that our body is designed to be consuming and withholding it from the people. And with the legislation now coming through to age 21, okay, that's great. And I support that. But people, we need to look at the bigger picture. This is something that our bodies want, and we are denying it to our bodies, which is making a playground for diseases to come in and for our children's bodies to be set up to be sick. I don't want my grandchildren's bodies set up to be sick. I want my grandchildren's bodies set up the way God intended for their bodies to be set up. He filled this planet with things that are good, and we should have the right to them. This is about freedom. This is about personal freedom to treat our bodies the way that we believe is the right way for us to fill our bodies. So this is my message for today. Investigate. Investigate, and just because you might have an opinion, your opinion more than likely is just because it was what you were told to believe, not what you investigated to believe. So I would implore you to do some investigation, look into this, look up the endocannabinoid system, do some research for yourself, find out the truth, because it is the truth that shall set you free. This is Kathy DeMatteis. My book, My Journey to the Center of Love, is scheduled for release on December 15th of 2017. Our open house is scheduled for that day from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my Fubella's products on Etsy. You can find my website, KathyDeMatteis.com. We have a new website coming out and a new business name. We'll be announcing that within the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much and have a great day. Good night, or good morning. Bye.